Kia ora, I'm Carolyn Young, Chief Executive at Retail NZ, and welcome to today's episode of Retail Unplugged, where we'll be discussing product stewardship and sustainability. Grab a coffee, take a break, and learn more about sustainability with me today. I'm joined by Grant Fraser, who's the Chief Legal and Sustainability Officer at Mitre. Mitre is a cooperative of 84 independently owned and operated stores, collectively employing over 8,000 people. Grant's accountable for the sustainability practice and work program for Mitre, and Mitre has one of the sustainabilities as its key priorities and has published its first formal sustainability report, Building for Better, in 2023, and made it publicly available for the Mitre website same year. Following on from its foundational sustainability strategy, Mitre has recently finalised its long-term Building for Better sustainability strategy. Kia ora, Grant. That's really impressive. Welcome to our podcast.
Kia ora, Karen. It's great to be with you today.
Fantastic. Well, look, we've got so much to cover, so let's get started. We talked a little bit in the intro about Mitre have been doing a lot of work in product stewardship. Can you tell us about how that's been going?
Yeah, sure. For us, we are a product business, so it's really important that we can look after the products that our customers look to consume. And we've got a number of different programs. A couple have been particularly successful for us. For instance, we have a plot recycling program, and that's recycled over 62 tonnes of plastic. So that's been diverted from the waste stream. And the great thing about that type of program, we've worked with one of our supply partners, Zealandia, and come up with a truly circular solution. So they are able to take the plastic pots, which are returned by our customers, they get chipped and then effectively get remade into plastic pots, and they can continue to do that over and over again. So that's been a fantastic program for us. And then we also have recycling programs with light bulbs, with batteries, and also with polystyrene. And again, we're working with different partners, whether that are councils or other supply partners, and we've managed to divert a significant amount of waste from the waste stream, which otherwise would go to landfill. And the great thing, we're getting some really good customer feedback on that. I think for a lot of them, they'd love us to do more and across other products as well. But what we've tried to do is focus on those which we see as being most material and the ones that make most sense to us as well. Probably one other thing I'd say is then, things like batteries. Unfortunately, we can't do that in all of our stores. The nature of the product, because it's hazardous, it's limitations on how it can be transported. So often there can be some complexities you've got to make sure to work through in the back office and the supply chain to make sure that you can really deal with it appropriately. But we've had some really good success and are keen to keep doing it.
And as a consumer, I would have to put my hand up and say I've used the pot recyclable scheme on a regular basis, and I go to my local Mitre and I drop them off, and it's always just good to know, because you do feel like when you're getting stuff for the garden, you do accumulate a lot of plastic. So knowing that it's actually going to go back and go through that circular cycle does make you feel a bit better. So hats off to you guys, and thank you for making me feel better about purchasing the pots in the first place. So, really great from that perspective. But, what else is Mitre doing to be more sustainable? Can you tell us a bit about the packaging guidelines policy? I think I've seen something about that.
Yeah, look, we've got a broad program of work, and I can talk a little bit more about that. But in terms of our plastic packaging guidelines in particular, we identified that was something we got a lot of customer feedback on and wanting us to take steps to reduce that. So we developed guidelines which we've provided to our suppliers. And the key principle is we want to remove as much plastic packaging as we can. So, removing it at source, so it's just not used at all. But we do recognise that there's a time and place for plastic. Certain things, certain packaging is still going to be valid. So the key principles that we have is if there is going to be any packaging used or plastic packaging used, it either needs to be recyclable, refillable, or can be home compostable. And we've been steadily working with our suppliers in terms of their ranges about how to reduce that, and particularly been focusing on our Mitre imports business. We're a significant importer in our own right, and so have been prioritising that with the factories and other manufacturers that we work with in terms of designing the packaging to remove it. And we've seen some really strong and positive gains. There's definitely more that we need to do in that space, so it's going to be an ongoing process. But we're encouraged by the engagement we're getting from suppliers, And often that's the thing, if you look to work with them together on this stuff, that they're facing the same challenges that we are as retailers. They're looking to see how they can find solutions. And so if you can make it easy for them and engage with them, often you can get some really good results.
So, and look, it's really important, isn't it? And all of us are really conscious around, the amount of packaging and things that we see come through, our shops and as consumers as well. But for SMEs, they don't always have quite the same capability of putting pressure on their suppliers.
Yeah.
What would they need to do as a SME if they want to create a more sustainable business? What would your recommendations be for the smaller operators?
Yeah, I think it is, it's a challenging area, and probably the big thing is looking at what's most material for your particular business. And a great way to do that is to engage with your customers, other stakeholders, and actually just as importantly, engage with your team. As a cooperative business, yes, we've got large scale on one hand, but we're made up of a number of small to medium-sized businesses, across the country, and so we've looked to engage with them locally, getting their team involved. We have a network of sustainability champions, people who might be passionate, interested in the space, and find out what's important to them, find out what's important to your customers, and then see about where you can prioritise your efforts first. Now, we're all facing increasing costs of doing business, cost inflation, and actually looking at areas where you might be able to get efficiencies. So that's things like looking at your power consumption, what lighting do you have, thinking about replacing if you've got older style lighting with LED lighting, which, yes, there might be some upfront cost, but actually in the long run, you're going to be saving money through power consumption. The other things, we've engaged with our stores looking at their the cars, utes, other trucks that they might have, and particularly in that passenger vehicle space, looking at when they're coming to replace them, actually, rather than going for another petrol or diesel, thinking about a hybrid vehicle or, potentially electric. And again, it's there's a potential cost associated with that, but you're going to get the long run benefit of doing that. Other big area I'd really encourage people to look at is then waste and what you can do in terms of reducing the amount of waste that's going to landfill. Because, those costs are going to keep going up. So looking at potentially, can you find more ways to recycle whether it's products coming back into your stores or even just in your back office operations, and looking at how frequently you get pickups from your waste suppliers. So, often where you're getting those efficiencies, cost savings, is actually reducing your carbon footprint as well. So I think you can get some real positives there.
So that's amazing. So I guess the key things I've heard from you are, one is talk to your staff and talk to your customers, whether that's, talking to them when they're coming in the store or doing something, out in an email out to them, or on something on your website or on a digital platform. Just make sure you engage with your customers to understand what is important to them and focus on those areas first. And then thinking a little bit about the broader business and how you can reduce your carbon footprint there, and the wins that you could get down the track. And I guess the key thing right now is what's sustainable and what's affordable, and it's just balancing out those things, knowing that we're all wanting to try and reduce the amount of waste that we've got, because it just adds another base point onto your cost of your business, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think there's it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. There's always going to be more work to do, and so I'd really encourage businesses. It can sometimes be a bit overwhelming, but just look to where you can start, and even start small, just to gain some momentum. And you'll find that as you start doing that, you'll identify more areas, and as you get people, whether it is your team in store or your customers engaged, that'll help to highlight other areas that you might want to to focus on. We've been doing a lot of work in our carbon footprint, and then setting carbon reduction plans from that. But even that, it's highlighted for us. There was a recent report issued looking at a number of businesses, mostly listed entities, which we're not, which was focused on carbon reporting. We didn't score particularly well with that. That was the Carbon Tracking Aotearoa New Zealand that was looking at that. But it's highlighted to us, the information they were looking at was from 30 June last year. And, we've done a lot of work in the last year around how we can get the reporting in place, get targets in place with our stores, and publicly talk about that. And we're going to be issuing our next sustainability report in about a month's time, which will have a lot more information on that. And I think, that would lift our score with some of the tracking that they've got in place. And I think, it highlights for other retailers is that this is just something you just need to keep working on and focusing on the little small incremental steps that you can take and look to build that over time.
And I think, as with everything, if we're doing the same thing we were doing a year ago, we're kind of going backwards, right? Because everything keeps moving and evolving so quickly that embed those small things, and then once you've got those embedded, think about next steps and then keep moving forward from there. So that, when we do know that more legislation will come in at some point around packaging and sustainability,
That's very true. Yeah.
if you start that program now, you're heading in the right direction, probably, I guess, is a key thing, right? For us as a sector.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And probably one other thing I would say, and New Zealand, we're a small country, and so I'd always really be encouraging. I'm open, and I know other people in this area are very open to engaging with other businesses to talk through what we're doing, sharing insights, learnings, but then getting ideas and seeing how we can potentially work together in certain issues. Yeah, we obviously need to be careful because we can be competitors in certain spaces, but this is an area where I think it's really important to take a New Zealand perspective and find ways that we can work together and work with other stakeholders, whether that's central or local government, so we solve some of these issues together. So don't necessarily feel you have to solve everything on your own. And I really encourage people through retail in New Zealand, or picking up the phone with people you'd be surprised actually how open and accommodating people are to wanting to work together on this.
Yeah, it's such a great point, Grant, because we are a community, and issues like sustainability is something that we all need to address, and it's not an area of competition. So being able to support each other, and we can learn from each other, right? There's always things we learn from other people when you have a conversation. I always believe in having a chat. So really great point for us to end on. But I guess the highlights today for me were really about making sure you're engaging with your staff and with your customers to understand what's important to them. Make a start, get started, embed it, and keep moving forward, and connect in with the wider retail space around what it is that you can do in your businesses around how to be more sustainable. Thank you so much today, Grant, for joining us. It's really been a pleasure to speak to you. And great to hear how Mitre 10 are championing sustainability within the retail New Zealand sector. I hope everyone enjoyed their coffee and took a great break. Thanks again to the Retail New Zealand partners, Westpac, MasterCard, Visa, Meridian and Z Energy, whose support enables us to keep you up to date with everything retail. Thanks for taking a few minutes out of your day, but don't forget to subscribe to Retail Unplugged on your preferred channel so you can keep up to date with all the current industry knowledge. Until next time, ka kite anō, bye for now.
Thanks, everyone.